So I've kept a lot of trees alive by killing off that stuff and preventing it from getting in those trees. KB1IZU, WY2M.
Okay, Mike, very good. WY2M, KB1IZU. Yeah, well, you definitely have earned an Audubon Award for saving the trees. And yeah, those stately oaks that they have down south, I've been driven through most of the south at one point in time or the other, having relatives in various parts down there. And I can imagine what your problem is. I know going across 110, going down 84, and then cutting across 110 or 120 over to the Texas area. I see all those kudzu growing on the roads and everything else, and it really doesn't look good at all. It's pretty, but I know that it's not good for the trees for sure. So I guess that you just have to do what you can do. The only caution I would have, and I've already said it to you, is you want to be careful. We know what happened to the guys down in Nam who had to deal with Agent Orange and so forth down there. They came back and they were in pretty bad shape. So you want to make sure that you use all the precautions you can so that you don't breathe that in or get it on your skin. You don't want those kind of problems for sure. So there you go on that. But yeah, it was just kind of funny. I got a big kick out of this article. You know, I was thumbing through the Sunday paper and just reading the tops of articles and so forth, seeing if there's anything interesting. And one of the editorials is labeled 100% kudzu, and then it talks about the school and so forth. But that 1% kudzu just called to my attention. I knew that you would like to have this. If I get a chance, I'll take that poem and I'll type it up and send it down to you by an email so that you can look it up. You may be able to find the actual work. I'm sure it's a poem that's available, may be available online, the full poem online. So there you go. But it's growing season up here. Everything's starting to bud out, and once the buds start hitting the trees, and everything starts to come alive. The flowers start to bloom, and that's the flowers blooming is what brings the hummingbirds up here. As a matter of fact, I have on my email on my computer when I bring up the Microsoft Windows, it has different pictures that rotate through as a screensaver kind of a thing, and it changes on a monthly basis or on a weekly basis. And the one for this month is an emerald-colored hummingbird caught in mid-flight, right above a blossom that is just blooming on the side of, looks like it might be a raspberry bush or something. And it's a perfect copy. A guy it nailed him in a side view in mid-flight, and just ready to stick his beak down in there and lick out the nectar inside. So that always reminds me, when the hummingbirds come, they can get pretty aggressive. If I go out there and I have a porch. On the lower porch, I have something that looks like the letter pi. So it's got two arms on either side on the back railing, and under that is where I have my bottles and cans, garbage cans. And on that crossbar up there, on either end of it, I hang hummingbird feeders. And then on top, I have a metal pole that goes vertically about 3 feet up. And I drill a hole in the top of that crossbar to stick that metal pole in there. And then on that one, I also have a hummingbird feeder. So I have 3 separate feeders, because the birds get very territorial and they will fight with one another if there's only one feeder. So I give them a choice of 3 different bottles. But when I go out there, if there's a feeder out, if there's not a feeder out, they will actually fly right up to the back door and buzz me as I go in and out. And whenever they do that, they basically come up up to the edge of the stairs, and they look right at me, hover right at me, and then they fly away. And that's kind of a polite way of saying, you're a little bit late there, buddy. Where is my nectar? I don't want to have to call in the troops here. I get one of my strong arm guys to come out here and get you if you don't put that feeder up. So I'm always very careful to make sure that they have nectar when they get here. It's a long flight and they're thirsty. But in any event, this is the season where everything starts going crazy, and I've been kind of holding off. I spent the spring busy reading books. I've done probably 12 books, 15 books in the last month or so, and now I'm going to have to get off my duff and get out there and actually do some work. But I'm going to resist cutting the grass as long as I can. So we'll see. There's work for every season, and in each season you have the things that occupy your life for sure. Back over to you, Mike. WY2M, KB1IZU.
KB1IZU, WY2M, cutting the grass. Yeah, I've done that a few times already. In fact, I knew we were going to have several days of rain here, so I cut my grass the day before it rained, because it was nice and dry out there that day. And let me tell you, when I cut my grass and it's dry, it's a pleasure. When that stuff is wet, with damp or whatever, loaded with morning dew, oh God, Bob, it makes such a mess, and you have to deal with it on the machines and stuff. But I actually cut it before it got rainy here, and I did the trim work as well, all the weed eating and the mower trim work that I didn't get with the large tractor. Obviously, I can't fit in all those places with that big one. So I use the weed eater, and I use the push mower. It's not self-propelled. I push that thing around and get the hills and the really sloping spaces with that. I use my little mower like a weed eater. Sometimes I lift that thing off the ground. It's crazy what I have to do with that when I'm pushing it up and down these hills here. It gets wild. But anyway, I got all that done. Several times I've done that already. So it's gonna be one of those banner seasons here for doing that stuff. And I hope that you get that pension money back. It's funny how these companies are, boy, they really jerk you around. They like to take your money, but they sure as heck don't like to give any of it back to you. Insurance companies are notorious for that as well, and this pension company probably is some kind of an insurance company, so they'll take your money real easy, but they won't give you any back. And when they do give it back, they figure out some stupid formula where they could screw you out of you. You say, well, I think I'm going to get back $1,000. By the time you're done, you might get back $500 if you're lucky. So be careful with that and stay on it. But it's always a fiasco. Today, in this 21st century, there is absolutely nothing that's cut and dry. Everything is a freaking fiasco. You have to get on that phone and deal with all that automated crap, and that is annoying in itself, especially when they play that blasting music in your ear, when you get put on hold for some reason or another. And then the ice cream melts when you finally get through to somebody, and they either get disconnected and you got to start the whole process over again, and I think they purposely disconnect you, or they put you on hold and then you get disconnected and you got to start the whole process again. A lot of times when I get on there with those clowns, I tell them, you're looking at my phone number, right? Yeah, I see your name and your number. Well, I tell them, jot it down right now. Because if we do get disconnected, there's no way I could call you back and get a rapid reply or even get the same person. So I'm expecting you to call me back. Oh yeah, we'll do that, no problem. And some of them do actually do that, because that has happened to me several times where they've called me back because I've requested that they copy my number down. But that's very frustrating. I spent, I would say, every bit of an hour today, Bob, on the phone with Aetna about my mother's insurance policy, her Medicare supplement policy. And they just kept connecting me up with this guy, that guy, this other clown, blah, blah, blah. A simple question that should have taken 5 minutes, maybe 7 minutes to answer, if that. I spent an hour, and finally, the last person that I spoke to, I got the answers from. So it's very, very frustrating. You can have a really good profession. Say, oh man, what's an up-and-coming profession? Something I can do, work from home and make some money. Well, you could do that if you connect up with the right people, and there's plenty of them in this country that have the means and do not have the patience to deal with crap like that, or blow an hour because they're making money hand over fist. In an hour they might be making, say, $40,000 or $20,000, and they ain't got time to mess around with some jerk on a phone. So you do it for them. Say, yeah, you need to contact Aetna for me, blah, 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 here's the information. You can make a nice living doing that. Just being instead of being a soda jerk, you be a automated phone process jerk. KB1IZU, WY2M.
Yeah, okay, Mike, very good. WY2M, KB1IZU. Yeah, when the divorce took place, one of the things that they did was they decided to take a portion of my pension. They didn't cut your Social Security, but took a portion of my pension and gave it to my wife for her lifetime in lieu of alimony. And it was convenient for them and for my ex-wife because they could direct deposit that money and they didn't have to go chasing me down. So when the divorced people do that, they look for some easy way to get the money against the possibility that the husband doesn't participate. After the divorce took place, I had a fairly amicable relationship with my ex-wife, so I wasn't too worried about that. And one of the last things that she said to me, one of the last conversations I had, was, "Don't forget that you have to follow up on that if and when I go." So she was anticipating that, and of course the company that I worked for put all of the pension money, fortunately, into ERISA, and there are a number of ERISA companies that handle pensions for corporations. The people, for instance, who work for General Motors, and this was something that Bob was and a couple of other people were complaining about, was when they went bankrupt, they lost their pensions. But the ITC pensions went into ERISA, and ERISA was handed around, the administration of the ERISA was handed around among the corporation elements. ITT, when I worked for them, was a conglomerate of 408 companies, a couple of which were really large. For instance, the Hartford Insurance Company was one of our companies, and so those kind of things are big enterprises. But the question is, kind of like playing whack-a-mole, and which company is the one that's got it this year? So I finally ran down the subsidiary that was handling the pension. They send me a statement every year of the status of the fund, and so I called them up. But the problem is that the administration of that fund has, over the years, it's been 20 years since I retired. 23 years, I guess, 23 years since I retired. Has moved around several companies. So I called them up, and there's one group in there that specifically is responsible for handling the administration of the pension and handles what they call not Cobra, corporate domestic order management or something like that, funds. So I called them up and I said my XYL is deceased, and I need to get that transferred. Then becomes the paperwork game. It's a little bit like three-card Monte. Who's got where are they hidden the pill this time around? Under which cup is the pill at this particular moment? So they did some research and they got back to me and said, well, we don't have a copy of your domestic order, CDO, I think it's the, so he said, we don't have one. Well, yeah, they moved the company 2 or 3 times and they probably didn't transfer the paper records. They've got whatever they've got in the database is in the database, but a domestic order, is an official legal document with stamps and seals on it, so at some point in time they misplaced it. I knew they were going to do that to me, so before I ever called them, I called the Supreme Court down in Connecticut and explained my situation and asked them to send me a copy of all that paperwork, which they did at a very, very economical $50. Ha ha ha. So they basically made a 10-page copy of all of the paperwork they did, and so I have the actual official photocopy of that. So I knew I had that available, and I called them up, and they said, well, we don't have a copy of your domestic order on file here. So I said, okay, I'll fax it to you. So I did fax it to you, but I faxed that to him last week, and I called him up this morning, and I said, Monday morning, I called him up Monday morning, and I said, all right, I faxed it to you last week. Oh, well, it's going to take us 24 hours and a couple of hours to enter it in the thing. We'll see when we can get it in there. And I said, well, I'm following your orders. I'm following your instructions. I'm using the telephone number you gave me. I went through all the trouble to get it from the court. I would at least expect you to be able to process it fairly quickly. After all, a fax is from here to there. We don't have to depend on the mail company or anything. And my fax phone happened to say that it was a successful send. Well, okay, we'll look into it. So now I got to play telephone tag with them. They've hidden the pill somewhere else now. I've got to figure out which cup they've got the pill in there right now. But I will follow up with them. I'm nothing if I'm not persistent. And I'm waiting for them to tell me, oh well, but we can't believe that your ex-wife actually died. You're going to have to prove it to us. So they haven't said that to me yet, but I'm expecting that's the cup for them to hide the pill under next time around. Unfortunately, she passed away in a hospital, in a public hospital, and it is a matter of record. So they should be able to round that up. But that administration of the ERISA fund is going all over the place. It was down in one of the southern subsidiaries for a while. It was up in New York City. And then they transferred it somewhere right now, and then it was transferred over into New Jersey to a company over in New Jersey, and now they've got it out in one of our companies out in Illinois, of all places. Probably it's the heartland, so it's equal distance to Illinois from either coast, so that may be one argument. But I gotta bug them on that.